Hello and welcome back to ThoughtBat. It's been a while since my last video because my workload in real life has begun to mount, but now that's over and done with, I can now make videos and post new content. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the history of the communist movement in the UK. Actually, I made this video a while back as a collaboration video for another channel, but unfortunately that never materialised. But here's the content. I hope you enjoy. Before I start, a little disclaimer. I'm not actually a communist myself. I am in fact an anarchist who is interested in the history of socialist movements, including those which I don't necessarily identify with. With all that said though, let's begin. Following on from my previous collaboration with Pogan on the history of labour movements in the US and the UK, it should be noted that, of course, the Labour Party were not the only working class party working within UK politics. Seeing Labour as unwilling to engage in and support revolutionary practice necessary to progress beyond a social democrat mixed economy, radical workers' parties began to organise as a result of the political fallout from World War I and influence from the October Revolution. The largest of these groups was the Communist Party of Great Britain, a product of the merger between socialist parties and unions and lobby groups across the island, including Wales and Scotland. In the interwar years, the party was very active. It gained support through its activism against British colonialism, sexual discrimination, and racial segregation, and thus had connections with feminist, anti-colonial, and anti-fascist groups and figures. It was also influential in the 1926 general strike, and in 1930 it founded the Daily Worker, now known as the Morning Star. It's the longest-running communist newspaper in Britain. CPGB worked with the USSR in order to establish international brigades to aid socialists fighting in the Spanish Civil War and recruited over half the 2,500 members of the British Battalion. During World War II, the party were heavily involved in protesting for public access to air raid shelters and participated in the organising of the evacuation of 3 million children from industrial cities, which were besieged by the Nazi Luftwaffe, to the safety of the countryside. The party were also heavily involved in negotiations for education reform and the establishment of the National Health Service, thus tripling party membership to over 60,000 members in 1945. Clearly, the influence of the party should not be understated. The communist relationship with the Labour Party and parliamentarianism was a hotly debated topic in the party. Opponents of the party's affiliation with Labour argued that engaging in reformism would place more importance on compromising to win votes as opposed to moving towards a socialist goal. However, Vladimir Lenin argued in his essay Left Communism and Infantile Disorder that Communist parties should work with reformist parties on the basis that, when the reformists secure power, the working classes will become disillusioned by the lack of progress and would join the Communist Party. The essay won over the majority of party members, and so they sought affiliation with Labour, which was promptly rejected by the party for fear of losing votes to the Liberals and Conservatives. The Communists then decided to send individuals to join Labour and seek electoral help for the Communists where possible. Communist membership peaked in 1945, and Labour's first successful majority government was not followed by an influx of disillusioned workers as Lenin had predicted. Membership declined steadily over the following decade. The first major loss of membership came as a result of the Soviet intervention in Hungary in 1956. Remaining loyal to the word of Moscow despite the condemnation of the USSR's actions from the majority of unions and workers caused the party to lose up to a third of its membership, including intellectual leaders. The party struggled to increase its membership over the next decade, amongst a surge of popularity for new Trotskyist groups such as the Socialist Worker Party and Militant, who were open about their disapproval for the Soviet Union. More on those later. CPGB began to be referred to as tankies, relating to the excessive use of tanks used to put down the Hungarian Revolution by the Soviet Union. Despite the status being relegated to a pressure group, the party was still able to organise the delivery of aid to Vietnamese forces in their fight against the USA during the 1960s. Membership began to recover until 1968, up until the Soviet intervention in Czechoslovakia. With 1956 in mind, the party gave a mild criticism of the USSR, but still declared themselves friends of the Soviet Union. During this time, it was also revealed that MI5 had begun planting microphones in CPGB headquarters, which the MI5 regarded as very productive. In light of these events, communist membership began to slump once again, this time not recovering until the party's dissolution in 1991. Holders of the mantle for revolutionary socialism has since transferred to Trotskyist groups as well as that of the Communist Party of Britain, which split from the original Communist Party of Great Britain over party policy regarding the European Union. Trotskyism had been growing as a force under the shadow of the CPGB, starting with the Revolutionary Communist Party, which developed into what became known as Militant. Militant were an infiltration group in the Labour Party, organised around the Militant newspaper, seeking to radicalise party members towards a Trotskyist platform. Attempts to expel the group from the party were frequent, but were blocked by Labour's National Executive Committee, and so Militant were able to gain control of the party's youth wing in 1976. 6 years later, however, Militant were found to be violating Clause 2, Section 3 of Labour's constitution, which declared that groups with their own programme, platform, principles and policy were ineligible for party affiliation. Multiple expulsions of militant leaders followed. The majority of militant members followed the leadership into abandoning the interest strategy and setting up a new party, simply called the Socialist Party. The minority of militant members continued their old strategy of infiltration and currently operate as Socialist Appeal. These Trotskyite groups and organisations are most present in university societies. I have personally attended several of these groups, but in my experience there are instances where not even the society's committee are even invested in spreading socialist ideas among students, but they have just accepted the role to put on their CV. Of course, this is not going to be the case for all socialist university groups, but it's still a problem I've found. But in the meantime, I hope you found this history of communist parties in the UK informative. So that's the end of the snippet. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it informative. If you did, please give the video a like, give the channel a subscribe, and I might do my next one, which might be a re-upload of another collaboration from a video that was taken down from the YouTube channel I was with, and that'll be on the history of the Labour Party. But I'll have to see if that video has actually been taken down. I think it has. I haven't been able to find it. But in the meantime, I'll see you later. Ta-da.